Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to another episode of Books with Bae. I'm Nori Poundsteel.
The episodes now? We call them
Whatever.
episodes?
Whatever this is. This is
Whatever
Bae
this is.
Poundsteel. Bae, husband Bae. First of all, I didn't even brush my hair or nothing.
You're beautiful just as you are, my lady.
Thank you, honey. You are cute.
We're gonna start the watch party over here. Here we go.
And we got tea today too.
I picked my hair out.
JP be out here looking. Look at me. You know what? This is not a hair show.
When have you? Your hair has been looking like that for the past few days, so I don't think a brush and your hair friends. You don't know how to act with your new hair. It's cool. You haven't had. You haven't had no hair that long.
I need waves.
What's up, everybody? Power of Now, as you know, if you've been following along.
In chapter 7 today.
Chapter 7 today.
I'm frozen over there.
You are frozen over there.
We're frozen. And JP's
portals into the unmanifested. That's what we're talking about today. But we got homies here, even though it's frozen. Hey, Nikki. What's going on?
So.
All right.
There you go. It's back.
We are back.
Hi, everyone. So today we are talking about, you're in chapter 7, portals into the unmanifested. And really quickly, in case you just tuned in, wherever you are, we are sharing our next reading. It's going to be The 5 Love Languages. This will be our next book that we're going to be reading.
Mine's supposed to be coming today.
And we're going to probably kick this book off
Friday.
So get your copy before Friday, or just watch us, listen to us go through it. Whichever you want. But this is going to be our next reading, The 5 Love Languages. So, Nami? So, let's talk about this chapter. This chapter was so hard to read.
Yes, I started talking. They're like, don't talk about it, Jen. Wait till we get on camera. Because, I said, oh, these aren't my glasses, though, man. Keep them.
You cute. You popping. You cute.
But yeah, this chapter was the hardest so far in the book. Particularly because, as the title says, unmanifested, understanding the things that are unmanifested and really getting to a point where I can find the unmanifested within myself. I'm not sure I'm there yet. I'm on the path, but it's a really difficult concept to graft, at least at this point. What's up, Mr. Carson?
Low-key, this chapter gave me a headache. If we're going to be real about it, this chapter gave me a little bit of a headache because there was so much in this chapter that I was like, what the fuck is Eckhart talking about right now? Like, I just didn't know what he was talking about. And the interesting thing about this chapter is that he says, don't get caught up trying to understand the stuff.
Right.
Just focus on receiving it. But the mind is not designed not to try to understand things. So again, this was a real challenge for me because there's not a lot highlighted in this chapter for me. Because I generally feel like I'm going to have to reread this at a later point to try to see what's going on. Because once again, this chapter really challenged me in a different way.
Let's jump into the portals.
All right.
Into the unmanifested. So starts out the chapter talking about going deeply into the body. And he knows that this is a difficult chapter. That's why he puts this thing at the beginning of the chapter where he says, I can feel, or this is once again the person or people who have questions about his teachings. I can feel the energy inside my body, especially in my arms and legs, but I don't be able to, blah, blah.
JP cannot read. I don't understand why we decided to do this.
But I don't seem to be able to go more deeply as you suggested earlier. Yeah. So he has a suggestion in the beginning to make it a meditation. It needn't take long. 10 to 15 minutes of clock time should be sufficient. So he's saying take pretty much the first 7 chapters, and he then goes into and creates or shows a meditation you can use to help you get more deep into the body, more deep into your energy, as he's suggesting. Bae doesn't have anything highlighted here because
I don't, because a lot of this first page was about getting deeper into the inner body. In full transparency, I've already spent a lot of time meditating. So I'm really connected with how to get to the inner body. And because of that, I didn't spend a lot of time with this part, like as far as highlighting things, because he talks about feeling the body from within, and I'm really familiar with that. So if this is your first time hearing about this book, this is a chapter that you actually might find very helpful, because there's a lot of tangible things that you can take with you to help you be more present in the now, and to help you tap into your inner being. Last chapter we talked about in chapter 6, the importance of being, the importance of feeling your inner body from within. And if you have no idea what that is, then in this chapter he shares how you can do that. So the title in and of itself, Portals into the Unmanifested, completely is like, what the fuck is that, right? Like, what are these portals? Is this witchcraft? What's going on? What's going on? What's the unmanifested, and why do I need to tap into it? Those are the initial things that for me pop up. And after that initial, like, all right, what is this things? I understood that the portals are ways for us to be more present, ways for us to be able to feel the body from within. And the unmanifested, it's the things about you don't know. At least that's what I understood. Or the things about you that are not physical form, that are not things that you can touch, that you can taste, that you can feel, because there's this whole part of us that we are not familiar with. There's a lot about you that you don't know. You are a magnificent creature, source of energy, whatever you want to call yourself. You are amazing, and there are some things you don't know about you. And Eckhart calls that your unmanifested. All the things about you that you don't know, he calls it your unmanifested. And he says he shares some ways in chapter 7 how you can tap into that. And the first thing he says is make it into a meditation. So I enjoyed that this is kind of like gives a different perspective to what meditation is, because I think there's a misunderstanding around what meditation is and how it works. So I think Eckhart does a really good job at giving us different ways to tap into that and to make that a daily practice. But again, this was a really challenging chapter for me based on where I am right now and also where I am today. Today's the type of day that I'm like, the mind is doing its magic, or whatever we're gonna call it. So yeah, it's challenging. It's doing its thing. The mind is doing its thing today.
Yeah, I didn't really highlight anything other than that first line as well. Just for some, I think it's at this stage it's harder for me to explain this portion. So guys, it's gonna take some work on my behalf before I could really truly explain how I feel about at least the first part of the page.
So, well, what I will say is Eckhart states that you want to make the feeling your inner body. You want to make that a daily practice. You want to make that a meditation. And he says you don't need to take a lot of time. 10 to 15 minutes of clock time is enough. So if you have 10 to 15 minutes, you can begin this practice. You can begin to feel your inner body. He gives specific ways of doing that. Sit on a chair, but don't lean back. Keep the spine erect. Doing this will help you stay alert, and alternatively choose your own favorite position of meditation. So he tells you exactly what to do. So if you're looking for that, he gets into that in chapter 7, first page. Okay?
Yeah, page 129.
Page 129. What do you have next?
You got stuff for me.
Yeah, so again, this is a really challenging chapter for me to talk and share with y'all, because I feel like you just need to read it. There's so much in this chapter, but at the same time, it's not as long, but there is a lot in this chapter. And he says, whenever you are present, you become transparent to some extent to the light, the pure consciousness that emanates from the source. You also realize that the light is not separate from who you are, but constitutes your very essence. Very wordy, but the reason why I highlighted this is because I think a lot of us have a very solid idea of what presence is. Like it has to be really materialized. And like right now, for example, we are starting this project with you, or we're sharing these books with y'all. But on the other side, we also have our businesses, right? And at least financially, we haven't gotten to the point where we used to be financially before we moved out of DC. And I think of success in a material form, where if I'm successful, I'm receiving, I'm getting more clients, I'm getting more of this and more of that. I think of success as more than what I have right now. And what I'm learning is that in this chapter, Eckhart is challenging me to think of success as exactly what I have right now already. I don't need more to feel success. I don't need more to be successful. It's more about turning inside, because the success is not in the outside world. The success is within me. The real joy is within me, because I can't take that stuff with me. Even if I had more money, a bigger house, whatever it is that I think I want, that's not gonna really fill me. That's not gonna give me joy. And I think this is really what Eckhart was forcing me to look at in this chapter. So it was really tough, because today I'm struggling with that already. So yeah, what you got?
I'm jumping over to the source of ki, unless you got some underlining here.
No, that's from before.
Is that ki? Is that how you say that?
Chai?
Chai? C-H-I. He says it in the audio.
Chi. Chi.
So
Espanol is chi.
Chi. So if you're familiar with chi, my familiarity with chi is from Dragon Ball and powering up and energy.
Yeah.
So he goes in and starts talking about the source of chi. Is the unmanifested, we have our question again at the beginning, is the unmanifested, what in the East is called chi, a kind of universal life energy? And he goes on to say, no, it isn't. The unmanifested is the source of chi. Chi is the inner energy field of your body. And so for me, that has huge relevance. Once again, I've been a lifelong Dragon Ball Z fan, and they always talk about finding this inner energy. And if you don't know what Dragon Ball Z is, the anime, that's a cartoon.
If you don't know what it is, you need to go find out, because your life. There's going to be a lot of Dragon Ball Z references in here, because both of us are huge fans.
And he says chi can be likened to a river on an energy stream. So just think of it as the natural energy that's flowing within you. And he says the unmanifested is the source. So the things that we don't know, that's where we're going to get our energy from. The things that we can't see, the things that we haven't manifested, that's where we get our energy from. So it's not from the accomplishments that we've already done, not from the things we have in our house. That's not what gives us energy. It's the things that we haven't done, the things that we haven't imagined, the things that we're trying to want and trying to go get. That's where we get our energy from.
I appreciate you saying that, because that makes sense. Because once you have accomplished something, once you checked it off your box, that thing no longer drives you. Like the idea of marriage no longer, the idea of having a wedding does no longer drives me. Not that it ever did, but the idea of finding a mate no longer drives me, because I already have my partner. I'm not out there looking for nobody. You know what I mean? So, and it's the same thing once you have the job of quote unquote of your dreams, it no longer drives you in the same way, because you already have it. And then you might be faced with the reality that you've outgrown your dream. You have grown what you thought was going to be your end game. And that's a manifestation of that too. So, okay, babe. All right.
I think we got the same thing highlighted here.
The next one, yeah. When your consciousness is directed outward. So that's when you when you start focusing on what's outside of you. Mind and world arises. So when you focus on, like I talked about earlier, success by definition of what's outside, not by you, but what society dictates, or by what your parents have said to you, or your family has said to you, the mind and the world arises. So the mind becomes louder and starts taking control. The mind tells you, you haven't accomplished this, or you haven't accomplished that. You shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. This is your ego gets even stronger, because this idea of who you think you need to be dictates how you behave. So he says that when you put your consciousness in the outside, that's what happens. You basically become a slave to the mind. You know what it is. When it's directed inward, it realizes its own source and returns home into the unmanifested. That's where I'm trying to go next.
Yeah, manifested.
I'm not there yet. I'm not here, returning, directing it inward. It realizes its own source and returns home into the manifested. I don't know that I've been able to return to really go to that point where I can feel it like that internally.
Yeah. He says right after, then when your consciousness comes back to the manifested world, you reassume the form identity that you temporarily relinquished. So that's just back to us identifying with stuff. Identifying with, this is my wife, this is our apartment, this is our computer, things like that.
This is our videos, you know, and all of that. That's not really what it is.
Now, let your spiritual practice be this. As you go about your life, don't give 100% of your attention to the external world and to your mind. Keep some within.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to pay attention to ourselves. And for us to truly, what's the word we're here? To get to the unmanifested, we can't be in this world. We have to keep our attention to us and feeling within, because that's where the unmanifested is. And he gets more talking about space and things like that. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the chapter.
You know, the way I thought about this part here is sort of like, if you want to manifest your purpose, if you want to achieve all these things that are so grandiose to the naked eye, if you want to become extraordinary, which you already are, but if you want to manifest your extraordinariness, that's a new word I'm making up, you have to do it consciously. You have to enter into it consciously. And what Eckhart says is that the unmanifested cannot liberate you until you enter it consciously. So you've heard about celebrities, billionaires talking about how important it is for you to tap into your inner voice, tap into your intuition, to use that gut feeling to make your decisions, right? Oprah is a big one. She says that every major decision she has made came from her gut. It came from her, like, listening to her core. Well, that's what liberated her. And you cannot be liberated unless you consciously make that connection with your inner self, unless you consciously connect with your inner voice. You won't be able to enjoy that liberation because you have to make a conscious decision to do it. You might get a glimpse of it, but you won't be able to fully embody it unless you decide to go in. He talks about dreams and people having lucid dreams, because dreams is another way that you can tap into this. And he says, what? Did he say it's a portal? I don't think he said it was a portal.
Well, this is all portals into the unmanifested.
Oh, you're right.
That's the name of the chapter.
But I don't think this was a specific one, though. At the most, that Jesus, blah, 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 blah. He says, do not attempt to stay conscious in dreamless sleep. So he says that some people can experience some levels of this when they are dreaming. But he says, at most, you may remain conscious during the dream phase, but not beyond that. And this I highlighted this because I have the ability to be slightly conscious during my dreams now, and which is not really something that I want to engage in too much because it's tiring, first of all. But that doesn't mean that I'm tapping into it. Like, I know I can do some of it. Like, I can be my dream aware of it, but I can't say that I have fully tapped into what he's talking about in here. He goes into the other portals. So these are portals that he has talked about.
Yes.
And he says the now can be seen as a portal. It is an essential aspect of every other portal, including the inner body. So remember, these are ways that you can become more present. These are ways that you can connect more with your inner body so that you can manifest the unmanifested, so that you can be able to see what's in here. And the beautiful thing about the unmanifested, as Eckhart talks about it, is that it could be anything. It could be as big as you want it to, or as you beyond what you can possibly fathom. And that's why he calls it the unmanifested, because he doesn't want the mind to label it and limit its ability or create a limiting belief around it. And that if you say the unmanifested, it could be anything.
Definition. Yep. So the mind isn't able to do that. And he says, you skipped the word, I think that's really important. It's the main portal. So being here present now is the main portal. There are others, but you cannot be in your body without being intensely present in the now.
Absolutely. Because you gotta feel it. You can't feel it if you're not present. That's not how it works. You and I both know that. All right.
You got the same thing here? Yeah.
Of course we do.
Of course we do.
Another portal into the unmanifested is created through the cessation of thinking. So by now, 7 chapters in, we've talked about how the thinking mind is like, setting you up, right? The thinking mind, and I think it's important for us to make the distinction that the thinking mind is very useful and it has its role, but it is the overpowering that the thinking mind has over you, over who you think you are, that really takes over. It's giving your attention 100% of the time to the thinking mind that can be problematic for you, that can be an issue. So when the thinking mind doesn't have your attention 100% of the time, when it's only when you want it, when you think only when you want to think, that's okay.
Right.
But when you think all the time and you cannot turn it off, that's when it's an issue. And a lot of us cannot turn it off.
That was my issue a couple of weeks ago. Not being able to turn it off, work always being on the brain, accomplishments, I need to be doing something, working, and not being able to just kind of sit still, literally like sit still and do nothing. And I think, reading this book over the past couple of weeks and just generally being better about telling myself, you know what, don't think about those things right now. They have a time and a place. And silence has helped a lot in helping me kind of,
which he talks about in this chapter,
has helped me a lot in reducing the anxiety and stress around always constantly thinking.
Yeah. Go ahead, Monty.
Thought is part of the realm of the manifested. Continuous mind activity keeps you imprisoned in the world of form and becomes an opaque screen that prevents you from becoming conscious of the unmanifested, conscious of the formless and timeless goddesses in yourself and in all things and all creatures. So this is what we just, kind of talked about. The mind activity keeps you imprisoned. You're held hostage by your thoughts. They just seem to not go away. They just keep torturing you.
Just keep at it.
And unless we can escape from the mind, we can't really find our goddess or goddessence.
Goddess.
I can't find my goddess right here.
Carried.
As you stated already, we stated every video.
I was just stating every video. Surrender. Now this part here I highlighted because I think that's the part where I need to connect with more. It's really, I'm getting into deeper levels of surrender, and it's getting a lot harder to surrender. Surrender, the letting go of mental emotional resistance to what is, also becomes a portal into the unmanifested. The reason for this is simple. Inner resistance cuts you off from other people, from yourself, from the world around you. You strengthen the feelings of separateness on which the ego depends for its survival. So right now, I'm going through this right now. Today, I'm going through it, where I am struggling to surrender to the reality that this looks, our success, our joy, our happiness looks different than what I thought it needed to look like. Because I thought success needed to look like making all this money, living in this fancy city, in this fancy apartment, free of roaches. Like having all these things that I thought were important. And now I'm learning that surrender is letting go of that, letting go of all these things, all that emotional attachment you have to those things, and just accepting that this is what it looks like, and that's okay. And because I had derived my identity from that for so long, I'm struggling a lot, because it's sort of like, man, that's not what it is. This is what it is. I don't know if I like it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mess with it like that. But it's not that I don't know if I like it because I generally don't like it, or because I thought it was gonna look different, that I'm already attached to that, married that expectation, and it doesn't allow me to like it.
Yeah.
So I think it's the latter, but it's really surrender. It's really big, and it's
super tough too.
And there's levels of it too.
Very, very different levels. For me, I think these past couple of weeks have been me surrendering to the fact that, I am a person, regardless of what I'm doing, that has people who loves him, that has friends, that has family, regardless of what I accomplish, those people are going to be there. And for me, the age of 35 was holding this, really was the thing that was holding all of this. And I had to surrender to the fact that, hey, all these things may not happen by the time I get to that point. And, you know, I was talking to a client recently, and they had something similar that they've kind of built around. They wanted certain accomplishments. They wanted 3 kids and be married by 25. And now they're, you know, getting closer to 40, and they haven't realized those things, and they haven't let go. They haven't surrendered to the fact that those things haven't happened. And that's causing them some struggle with understanding some of the business concepts and wanting to put in some of that work, because they're still attached to something that was supposed to happen for them, you know, 14 years ago.
And it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us have things that we are holding on to because we thought, well, I was supposed to get this, and I was supposed to be here by now. And I mean, I hear it with my clients all the time, like, I thought I would have accomplished more by now, or I thought that I was supposed to be in a different place by now. And there is this freedom that comes from not attaching yourself to that and being like, oh, okay, that's fine. If that's not what it is, like, this is what it is, I'm okay with that. But for so many of us, particularly millennials, we have been promised this, like, promised land. We have been promised, we have been talked to and said that we were going to arrive to some area, and if you did things in a certain way, you were going to receive a certain outcome, and you were going to get to enjoy reap the rewards of that outcome. And now that you've gotten to this place in your life where things don't look how you were told and promised they were going to look, now suddenly you're wondering, like, did I do it wrong? Where did I mess up? Instead of questioning the system, you question yourself. And that really gets in the way of our ability to be joyful and to be grateful and to enjoy life, because we are still seeking and searching for a dream to materialize when the reality is different, and we don't want to let go of the dream, or the dream that we thought was supposed to be the dream, because it's not really even our dream. Not everyone has those dreams. A lot of us are fed those dreams as we get older. So what you got next for us?
The surrendering. So we go to talk more about portals. It's up to you to open a portal in your life that gives you conscious access to the unmanifested. Get in touch with the energy field of the inner body. Be intensely present. Disidentify from the mind. Surrender to what is. These are all portals you can use, but you only need to use one.
You only need to use one. Right. So he gives us all these portals that we can use, but you only have to use one. You don't have to use all of them. You don't have to use all of them at once. You can use different ones at different points. One portal that I really connect well with is feeling the inner body. I usually start feeling my hands, feeling the energy in my hands. So if you're watching right now, you can try it yourself. You can start by just feeling the energy in your hand. Like, take a moment, take a breath, and feel the energy in your hand. Or you can feel it in your back or in your legs or in your feet. I like that one a lot. That one connects with me a lot. But also meditation and silence is another one that connects with me. Being fully present in the moment, engaging the senses. So depending on what I'm doing, I like go back and forth between some of these portals, but they really do help me be more present, and they remind me that it doesn't matter what's in the future, what's in the past, because the only thing that matters is what I have in this moment, and I can forget about that pretty often. So silencio. So someone asked him, surely love must also be one of the portals. So the person asked him, is love one of the portals? And Eckhart says, no, it's not. He says, love isn't a portal. It's what comes through the portal into this world. Your task is not to search for love, but to find a portal through which love can enter.
How many people are searching for love right now?
The wrong place.
Searching for a husband, searching for a wife.
Kids.
Right, searching for their kids to love them. All from the simple fact that they haven't, tapped into the love, which is naturally within inside of them. They
don't love themselves.
Yeah.
Because they think they need to love all these other things.
Yeah, and the manifested world tells you that you should find love through all these other things. Oh, yes. And when I went to college, I figured I was going to meet my wife in college, but if I didn't, and was like, whatever, and it wasn't like, oh, I got to go find my wife here. It was like, I'm open to experiencing the unmanifested throughout my life. And if that person happens to come along, great. If not, I'm going to keep it pushing.
I did not go to college to find no husband.
So,
I went to college to have a good time and get my degree. So my mama could be proud once again. All right, who do you have next?
So he then goes to talk about silence. Are there any other portals apart from those you just mentioned? And so he goes on to say, yes, there are. The unmanifested is not separate from the manifested. It pervades this world, but it is so well disguised that almost everybody misses it completely. If you know where to look, you'll find it everywhere. A portal opens every moment. So I just got a little tingly there from that one. And I didn't have that highlighted, but something told me to read that because a portal opens every moment. We spend so much time not being in the moment, thinking about what we got to do tomorrow, what we didn't do yesterday, when we really kind of forget that, hey, right now, right here, right now is where love happens. Us talking to you, the feedback you're getting from us, or the feedback you're giving us, this is the love. Us sharing this book with each other, sharing it the world, that's where the love happens, and that's the portal. But we're just so busy running around and taking care of our day-to-day that we miss these portals, and we have these portals that are open to us anytime we want them.
I have paying attention to outer silence creates inner silence. The mind becomes still. A portal is opening up. And my relationship with silence has changed over the years. At a point, I remember silence being an invitation to the mind to go off.
Go off.
Hey,
go off.
Hey. An invitation to the mind to just do its thing, right? And as I've gotten more into this path and meditating more and connecting more with myself and my inner body, I've seen that in the beginning, yes, the mind uses the silence to fill in the gap. He's like, oh, this is my time to do my own thing. This is the reason why so many people, when they lay down to go to sleep, is the first time they have a moment of quiet, and then their mind just
pew, pew, pew. That's me.
That's JP.
I have this ring, and it tracks how long it takes you to fall asleep. And I would be taking 30, 40 minutes to fall asleep because that was the first time that I would sit down, and this was before I was really meditating, and my mind was like, okay, it's quiet. Let me go through all these things I've been wanting to do, or I've been wanting to manifest from the unmanifested, but I haven't had a chance to. And so we actually meditated right before this, and doing some other things that's really helped me, fall asleep much quicker now that I'm not so busy trying to pack so much into my days, and I'm allowing that silence to let my mind do what it needs to do.
That which I'm glad you mentioned, because I think a lot of us confuse busyness with success and happiness. It's so like the more busy you are, the more successful you are, the happier you are. When in reality, a lot of us have things in our day that we don't need, and we just put it there so we can't say that we do them. And I think
I was productive.
Yeah, I'm having a great day today. But this part here really spoke to that, because again, the challenges of this chapter, right? Like I mentioned earlier, this chapter can be really, you can be listening to this and be like, what are they even talking about in this chapter? Because unlike the other chapters, it's not as clear cut. It's not as black and white. It's not as like, okay, I can understand that. This chapter really challenges the mind. So it's like you want to receive the essence of the words without getting caught up on the words and without letting the mind control what's going on. So there's a lot happening as I'm reading this chapter.
Talk for hours about just the word unmanifested and what that means. And another something that we've talked about in previous chapters, he goes in and saying, even during a conversation, become conscious of the gaps between words, the dimension of stillness grows within you. You cannot pay attention to the silence without simultaneously being still within. Silence without stillness within. You have entered the unmanifested.
Yeah.
There it is right there. You feel it? Even right there. That's the unmanifested. That's silence.
And a lot of us are scared of silence because a lot of us
very much so.
know that, a lot of us believe that when we are silent, the mind begins to remind us of all the things we haven't done that need to do. So a lot of people are like, if I continue to occupy my mind with stuff, I won't be thinking about it. I won't feel it. And that's one of the big reasons why I used to work with music. I would like listen to music when I would be working so that the mind wouldn't have a moment to tell me anything. If I'm listening to music, then I could hum a song and that will interrupt the mind. We are all looking for ways to interrupt the mind, right? So these portals that Eckhart talks about are ways that you can interrupt the mind that do not require something else, but that you can do with yourself. And I think that's why they're so powerful, because a lot of us rely on external things to interrupt the thinking mind. But Eckhart gives us a list of things we can do to interrupt the thinking mind so that we can be more present and connect more with ourselves, that we don't need any external things to do it. And I really think that's really the core of this chapter. Then he goes into space.
Space. This was a big part of the chapter for me. Just as no sound can exist without silence, nothing can exist without no thing. Now we're getting into some headache probably inducing language here. Without the empty space that enables it to be. Every physical object or body has come out of nothing. It's surrounded by nothing and will eventually return to nothing. Not only that, but even inside every physical body, there is far more nothing than something. So even us, like I can't see through my hand, but it's mainly nothing, which is true. He goes on to say physicists tell us that the solidity of matter is an illusion. Even seemingly solid matter includes your physical body is near 100% empty space. So he goes on to talk about the atoms in our body. And if you were to look at on an atomic level, you'll see that even the atoms in our body are spread apart. And so if you think about, look at this room. This room is a bunch of just a space.
Yeah.
Like there's some books, there's a couch, but most of it it's just space. And the essence of all things is truly just emptiness. If you go outside, well, it's mainly just, once again, but space. And so one thing for me is I know that to find my calm and to find my center, I need space. So I'm like, babe, I just need some space. I'm going to go out, do this, or I'm going to go in the other room, or can you go in the other room? Just to give me some spaces for me, for me to find that, to get it unmanifested, I just kind of need things to be gone away so I can find myself in that emptiness.
I hadn't really thought about it like this until you started talking about it. But if you think about when you walk into someone's house, and y'all seen that show Hoarders, I'm pretty sure I brought it up before, and you will see the home of the people that are there. You would not even want to sit down. Like you will walk in and walk right out. The air is dense. It's heavy. It's this stuff literally everywhere. And this room is this empty by design, because I do not like a lot of stuff in the room, because it takes up space. And when you walk into a room that has space, you feel lighter. You feel like I can move in here. I have this enough space here for me in this room. And a lot of times we don't feel like that. It's like when you walk into a crowded classroom or a crowded office meeting, and you gotta try to look for a place to sit or to stand. You're kind of like a little bit of distress, a little bit anxious, because you're looking for your spot. Where do I fit? Where do I fit? But when you walk into a place and you can pick wherever you want to sit, you have a freedom. You have some type of power, control over where you could be at. And really, I hadn't thought about it until you were talking about it, but space gives us that. Like if I walk into your house and you have a lot of stuff in your house, I'm not going to be in your house for long, because you have a lot of stuff in your house. And that applies to my mama's house. Like if there's a lot of stuff in her house, I'm going to be in the space where there's the least stuff available.
Right.
And I think this is something I hadn't really considered until you brought it up. All right. What do you have for us?
I'm on to 138. If you're following along, we're reading The Power of Now on page 138.
138. Oh, since I got something before you. Mm-hmm. I have nothing can only become a portal into the unmanifested for you if you don't try to grasp to understand it.
What? How,
I know.
How can I understand? How can I get it if I don't understand it?
Because you feel it. Mm-hmm. You feel it. You don't have to understand. You don't have to understand it with the mind to know it's true. Mm-hmm. You know love is true, even if you don't understand love with the mind, mm-hmm. right? So the same applies to this concept of space and unmanifested. You know it's true. You can relate to the idea of walking into a room and needing space to breathe and to mm-hmm. move, whether or not the mind can conceptualize that. So don't focus too much on understanding. Just focus on feeling where the truth is. That's all I'm going to say.
So what is the essence of the room? We're in a room now. What is the essence of this room? Space, of course, empty space. We talked about that earlier. Mm-hmm. There can be no room without it. So if, for example, behind us over here is a closet. If you open that closet, it's going to look like there's a lot more stuff in this room. But if you go into that room, it's technically a room, but it's full of stuff. Yes. So there technically isn't any room, mm-hmm. so it doesn't feel like a room. Mm-hmm. And so just think of it like that. You can have all this mental baggage in your mind, all these different things. Mm-hmm. And yes, you do have space in your head, but you don't have room for anything in there because you have this baggage in your head.
Okay.
That's why if you think about it, I was talking about earlier, a closet is closed, right? It's not open. Mm-hmm. Openness is closed. So we put things in the closet so we can close it to create openness in the other spaces of our, in this case, in our house, in our apartment.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. I see where you go with that. I like. Go ahead.
So he then goes on to start talking about withdrawing attention from things, mm-hmm. and says you cannot think and be aware of space, mm-hmm. or of silence for that matter. Mm-hmm. By becoming aware of the empty space around you, you simultaneously become aware of the space of no mind, of pure consciousness, the unmanifested. So as we keep saying, you got to stop thinking about it and just let it be. Thinking of the space, thinking that I have to do these things, I have to accomplish these goals. You can't find the unmanifested unless it's silence. And becoming aware of that empty space around you and becoming aware of the no mind, that is the pure consciousness, that is the unmanifested. Space and silence are two aspects of the same thing, the same no thing. So he keeps talking about this no thing.
That's why I had a headache. Y'all see why I had a headache, right? This book gave me a little bit of a headache.
It can be
this chapter
really, really just off the wall and trying to put your mind around it. But once again, our consciousness is trying to put it in a box. It's trying to put it in the closet that we understand it.
Yeah.
And we can't understand it until we start practicing it. Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like when people say, take that leap. If you've been thinking about whether it's moving to a new city, transitioning for work, if you, whatever it is that you want to do that might cause all these questions to come up, right? When you do that, unless you do it, you won't be able to see how all those things were keeping you from taking this step. So unless you actually leave that job and move on to another thing that you are more interested in, you won't see how much space that was taking on in your life. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us don't know how much space things take up within us until that thing is no longer present. And we have a tough time conceptualizing because we think, well, I can handle it. Well, I can deal with it. Well, I've been dealing with it for so many years, blah, 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 blah. So that can keep you in a position when in reality, it's taking a lot more than what you thought it was taking. So an example of this, I think when we left DC, when we were in DC, at the time, I was like, before the depression, I'm like, we're in a really good place. We're married, we have this apartment, we're doing really great, blah, blah, blah. We have this job. I mean, we have jobs that we were going to regularly. And it wasn't until we moved here and walked away from all of that I realized that caring for yourself and connecting with yourself could be a full-time job in and of itself. The idea of you spending time with you and getting to know you and being with yourself can be a full-time job in and of itself. Like just starting to meditate and exercise and eat healthy and feed your brain with things that are actually purposeful. Like this can be a full-time job. And I would have never been able to realize that caring for myself could be a full-time 9 to 5 because I already had a 9 to 5, and that's what was taking up all of that attention, all of that energy. So again, sometimes you don't know how much things are taking up your space until those things leave, until you remove yourself from those things, or until you remove those things from your life. So that's really what I wanted to say about that. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. All right.
What else you got?
There is no inner space, no stillness. Most humans are completely unconscious of this dimension. They are out of balance. In other words, they know the world or think they do, but they don't know God. They identify exclusively with their own physical and psychological form, unconscious of essence. And because every form is highly unstable, they live in fear. This fear causes a deep misperception of themselves and of other humans, a distortion in which their vision of the world. Hey.
Once again, that word feared pops up. That was my word from last chapter. And here it shows it up again. And it's because, we do a lot of things out of fear. Once again, this fear causes a deep misconception of themselves and other humans. So not only does that fear cause us look at ourselves wrong, we look at other people incorrectly. And that's the basis of arguments, fights, things like that, because we fear something, not necessarily because it actually is a threat to us.
Yes. And that's a book that Eckhart references a lot through the text that he writes. And Miracles, which we also have, but that book is really, I don't know if we're going to read that one with y'all. That book is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's on the shelf over here, and I saw that. I'm like, we have that book. But this book, no, we over here.
You see how thick that book is?
This is like the Bible, right? This is what it looks like. And it actually, it
has a lot
about the Bible too. So, yeah.
So he mentions this book, and in this book, he says, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So essentially what he's saying is like, if it's real, there's nothing that can come against it. It's sort of the idea when people are like, if you love somebody, let them go. And if they come back, it's because they were meant to be with you. If not, it wasn't. Well, that's true. Like if something is real, there's nothing that's going to threaten that. It's going to look different than what you thought it looked like. It might behave different than what you thought it was going to behave like, but that doesn't mean that it's not real, that it will not be real. You also know, if you remain in conscious connection with the unmanifested, so if you remain in connection with the things about you that you don't know or that you're looking to connect with, the things that are deeper within, right, within the surface, you value love and deeply respect the manifested and every life form in it as an expression of the one life beyond form. You also know that every form is destined to dissolve again, and that ultimately nothing out here matters all that much. So this was a major for me because, as I told you earlier today, I've been, really, the mind has been kind of taking over and thinking a lot about, okay, Nori, this is cute and all. This book club thing is cute and all, but is this gonna pay you bills? Like, how you gonna, you want to go see your family? How you gonna, like, all these things, all these questions that the mind is suddenly trying to bring up to keep me from being present, because the mind doesn't want you to be present. Because if you're present, the mind doesn't have control. Remember this. This is true, and this is how it's showing up for me. So as I thought about that, it's like, you know what? Even if I couldn't pay the bills, that doesn't matter. Because that's not important at the end of the day. That's not the most important thing. What is the worst thing that can happen? And even in the worst case scenario, we will be fine. So this was like a really sombering thought and a very like bringing it back bringing it back to reality, which is you also know that every form is destined to dissolve again, and that ultimately nothing out here matters all that much. And when you know that nothing matters all that much, you can exhale and be like, all right, well, let's see what's going on then, because we're good. Because another day, the bills are paid. We are fine. We're not homeless, so even if we were, but we're not. Stop it. We're not homeless. We have food in our fridge. We're going to the grocery tomorrow. Like, we're gonna be good. But again, it's the idea that if success doesn't look how I wanted it to look, I'm under threat. I should be afraid. And that doesn't matter, because none of this matters. We are all going to die. We are all going to return back to the earth. That's just how it works.
Mm-hmm. The true nature of space and time. Now consider this. If there was nothing but silence, it wouldn't exist for you. You wouldn't know what it is. Only when sound appears does silence become into being. Similarly, if there are only space without any objects in space, it wouldn't exist for you. So we talked about this previously, and one of the examples we use is dark and the light. So there's darkness, and if you were in the dark, you wouldn't know that you're in the dark until the light comes on.
Yeah.
Right? And so what he's saying is, when it's quiet, if there was nothing but, so think about if you were in space. If you're in space and you're just in space floating, you wouldn't know that there's gravity. You wouldn't know that there's planets, because you're just in space. Not until a planet shows up are you like, well, that's a planet. Then what am I in? I'm in space. So we really don't, or it's really hard for us to think about that concept, because we're born into a world where things have already been manifested. And so since we're focusing on the unmanifested, that's the real difficult part, because there are things that are still unmanifested that we can't see, but we can't see them because we haven't manifested something that's then going to show us the unmanifested. And that's the headache again from Bay.
Yes, y'all see it right here? Right here is the headache. And I think the headache is the mind trying to conceptualize and understand and put it in a neatly package. And because the mind can't do that, it's like it's causing a physical reaction. So you're seeing it in real time. That when you're trying to understand something that the mind cannot fathom, it causes a physical reaction, a physical manifestation, and that's what the headache is. It's not that this itself is not giving me a headache. It is the mind. It's a lack of understanding and ability to package this and bring it down to whatever tiny concept it can make sense of, that gives the physical reaction, and that physical reaction becomes the headache. So you're seeing it in real time happening right now. You're being a witness to it.
Go ahead, what you got for us?
What appears to us as space in a universe perceived through the mind and the senses is the unmanifested itself externalized. It is the body of God. And the greatest miracle is this: the stillness and vastness that enables the universe to be is not just out there in space. So everything that allows the universe to be the universe is not just up there in space. It is also within you. When you are utterly and totally present, you encounter it in the still inner space of no mind. So I've experienced this state, the state of no mind, where your thinking mind is not controlling you and you're not thinking all the time. But I had not thought that, or conceptualized or understood that that's the same as the vastness of space, where there's no mind. And it makes sense, because in space there is no mind. It just is. The space is, the stars are, the galaxies are, and they just are. They're not looking for likes or follows. They just are. They just are. So that really, really spoke to me.
Hence, the ultimate purpose of the world lies not within the world, but in transcendence of the world. He then goes on to say, it is through the world and ultimately through you the unmanifested knows itself. You are here to enable the divine purpose of the universe to unfold. That's how important you are.
Dang. I even went a little bit before that when he says, you may have heard the Buddhist saying, if there were no illusion, there will be no enlightenment.
Right, because then there would be nothing
then what do you need to
wake up from?
Yeah, because you wouldn't be sleeping.
To wake up from the illusion. Yeah.
So if you're seeking enlightenment, it's because you're asleep, and there's an illusion.
And it's really easy to see how some of these things can be used, because we just talked about how nothing matters, and then he's also saying that is how important you are.
Yeah.
Kind of in the same vein. But once again, we're not really trying to wrap our minds around it. We're just trying to let it be and be still and let it marinate.
Nothing that wait, did I go ahead?
That's fine. You go ahead.
Okay. Nothing that is of value, nothing that is real is ever lost.
And you hear that when we've talked about that previously. Even today we talked about that.
Yeah.
If you love it and let it go, comes back, then it was meant to be.
Even if you think about the stuff that Einstein and these people that have lived the stuff that people have lived centuries ago that we're still talking about right now, well, it's because it was of value. If it was more valuable than other, like the value manifested in different ways, and that was something that was valuable. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that if something you're sharing is not being talked about, that wasn't valuable? Maybe. I don't know. But it certainly means that the things that you are talking about were valuable. They are valuable to whatever you're using in your life right now. Mm-hmm. So those like mathematical formulas and scientific experiments, like things like survival of the fittest from Charles Darwin, we're still talking about that because it still applies. It still makes sense. There are things that we're no longer talking about, not because they're no longer valuable, but because they no longer apply to it at the day. So we don't perceive them as valuable. So this was really like a reminder that if it's valuable, it's not going to get lost. So you don't have to be worried about your legacy if you bring in value, because your legacy will live on. And the value will live on. The value is the legacy. It's not you and people remembering your name. It's people remembering the value. It's people using that value that you brought to them. Right. And I think a lot of us want to be remembered, but we don't want to bring value. And the value is that gives you the remembering. I don't know if it's Eckhart that says this, or it might have been somebody else I read that says, when you see quotes online, you don't see people's pictures all the time. Right. As a matter of fact, people get attributed quotes all the time that didn't say, but you see the quote. Right. Well, that quote is the value. Mm-hmm. That message is the value. So it doesn't matter who said it, because the value is the message that was delivered. Right. And that's really the best way I can think about that. Ooh, we got one more.
We're getting to the end of the chapter. Well, this last paragraph, we're going to read it for us, babe. It's major.
Every portal is a portal of death. The death of the false self. Let's take a moment to sit on that. Every portal is a portal of death. The death of the false self. When you go through it, you cease to derive your identity from your psychological, mind-made form. You then realize that death is an illusion, just as your identification with form was an illusion. So if you yourself is an illusion, so the idea that you die is also an illusion, because it's not a real thing. The whole thing is not a real thing. The end of illusion, that's all that death is. Mm-hmm. It is painful only as long as you cling to illusion. So as I'm reading this right now, I am realizing that I'm dying. I'm not going through a physical death of form, but that's literally what's happening. The idea that I am form, the idea that I need to derive my identity from these things is dying. Mm-hmm. And I am starting to grieve that. Whoa, what the fuck? So right now I'm grieving. And that's why I'm being faced with this intensity that I'm feeling right now, because it's like, yeah, I'm starting to believe in that I am an illusion, that all these things are an illusion. And that's forcing me to be like, we gotta get rid of it because it's an illusion. And that means that death is happening right now. And as you can see, it's hard. Mm-hmm. Also, I just realized that as I literally just read it to y'all. So you're seeing transformations and breakthrough in real
painful
time.
only as long as you cling to illusion.
Yes.
So as soon as you are able to let go, guess what also dissipates? The pain. The pain goes away. So think about anytime you're holding on to a memory of a loved one. Sometimes we say they just won't let that person die.
Yeah.
Well, it's true. They haven't let that person die because they're still living in their mind, and that's why it's still so painful for us. If you had maybe a parent that died a while ago, or a family member, even a close friend, it's painful then. And if you continue to live in that experience, it's going to continue to be painful. So for us to drop that illusion, once again, this is the hardest chapter, finding these portals to help us drop that. But if we remember that, in the end, everything's an illusion, and that if we can die sooner rather than later, we can be free from that pain.
And I think that also applies to like relationships. People that are still holding on to relationships that have ended, people that are waiting for their exes to call them back, or people that are calling their exes back, people that haven't moved on from this. Like, you're keeping that alive, but it's already dead. So you can't continue. You can water a dead plant, but the plant's not going to come back to life. And I think a lot of us struggle with that, particularly as I was sharing with you today with myself. The reality that the life that I thought was going to be my ideal life is different than what it looks like. It's something that I have to allow it to die. And me struggling with that is a manifestation of me clinging to that dream, clinging to that form that I have already attached myself to. And that's why it's so difficult to accept that it's actually better than what I thought it was, because I already have it. So whatever I get from this point is just extra. And I rob myself from the ability to see that because it doesn't look how I thought I wanted it to look. It's almost like I'm okay with it being much harder if it was the thing I wanted it to look like, as opposed to just being okay with how it is right now and still seeking whatever it is that I'm looking for later. So that was chapter 7. We know this chapter was a little dense.
Yes.
We are fully aware that this chapter might have challenged you more than the others. This
book that we decided to start out with, that there are some things in here that people are like, what? Huh? So this isn't the easiest book to jump into, but this has been a very important book for us. And that's why we wanted to share it with everyone. And these are conversations that we're having in our lives. The books that we're reading have played an important role for us, and they're going to continue to play an important role for us as we grow and as we try to get to our unmanifested, whatever unmanifested that looks like. Exactly.
So thank you for spending time with us today. Power of Now, chapter 8 tomorrow. Our next chapter 8, Enlightened Relationships.
All right.
So that should be fun and exciting. The next reading we're going to be taking on is the 5 Love Languages.
Yep.
Full transparency, we have read a lot of these books already, but don't let that discourage you because we're going to read them again. And every time you read a book, you are opening a portal to learn more about yourself.
And you're going to learn something new, regardless. Yes. And this goes for any course, videos, things. You're going to see things that you missed the first time.
We see them right now.
And, just always keeping an open mind and being open to those portals, as they say, is going to be important as we continue on our journeys.
So thank you for spending time with us. We might even be sharing some updates on how this is going to continue to work later. But for now, just know that the next book is the 5 Love Languages, and we see you tomorrow for chapter 8.
I'm going to go hoop, or maybe I'm going to go box with Babe.
I'm going to go boxing.
Box with Babe. We'll see.
Y'all see this? This is what marriage is like.
We'll see.
Well, thank you for spending time with us today. We will see you tomorrow. Bye. I literally just poked my eye out.